Welcome to the video format of the Entrepreneur Lifestyle Podcast. And if you haven't yet, please do subscribe to our podcast using the link below. And now enjoy this interview. Today, I'm here with Lee Bridges. And so far, he's been a professional endorsed musician, a stepdad, a business owner, a drug addict, a university lecturer, keynote speaker, and an author. I'm going to leave it there. That's an amazing intro. Lee, welcome to the show.
Boom. Thank you so much for having me, Ben. I really appreciate it. An absolute pleasure. Really appreciate it.
Brilliant. So let's just go straight into it. I think a lot of people over the past couple of years have really struggled with business, attempting to move things forward. You've went through that head on with Beach Music LLP. Tell us a little bit about what happened during that, and maybe give us a little bit of your story as well up to that point, so the audience get a feel for who you are and what you've done up to that.
Yeah, for sure. No worries at all. So yeah, Beach was, I sort of bootstrapped that years ago. I was, like I said, I was a traveling musician. And the problem with a musician is that you get loads of work in the middle of the summer, loads of work over Christmas, and then nothing in between. And your business acumen is normally pretty bad. So when I was doing that, I saw a couple of gaps in the market, and I kind of figured, what would be really cool is to be able to offer musicians an actual salary, which is just something that doesn't happen. So we set up Beach Music, completely bootstrapped it, got it into profit within the first year. Which is cool, and I had no idea what I was doing with business at all. Kind of a sort of jump off the cliff, build the plane on the way down kind of thing. So we did that. We started approaching hotels. We got a lot of our musicians going from that sort of staggered work throughout the year with lots of dead periods to weekly regular gigs where they were getting paid. So it was like 2 gigs a week, 3 gigs a week, but 52 weeks of the year. So it wasn't that, crazy dance in the middle where you were turning down 10 gigs on the same day, but then you had nothing in November, Yeah. So we did that, ran that for about 8 years, built it up, staff, offices, everything. And then COVID completely wiped it out overnight. It's one of them, we're in the wrong industry for that thing. However, it's been, an absolute learning curve for me. And I think that it's such an awesome thing that it's happened in the way that it's happened. We the bit that was absolutely gutting is obviously it wasn't the offices or the contracts and things. It was the people. Like it sounds so soppy, mate, but like I never have people working for me. We're all working together. We're all doing the same thing. So I had like people that turned out to be really good friends of mine that have also got families. I didn't want to put them on furlough, so arguably stupidly or maybe super ethically, paid them out my own pocket for the first lockdown. But then there was a second, then there was a third. I nearly bankrupted myself last year, trying to make everyone's wages, and then just absolutely heartbreakingly sort of had to let everyone go. In the meantime, set up a separate business in finance. So we run a brokerage called Reform Financial, which is going really, really well. We're 7 months in, and we're like starting to properly take off the runway. So that's really exciting. And then it's probably the last bit to this before I stop waffling. I put out a book last year. I do a lot of stuff with mental health. I used to teach a lot. So while I was doing the gigs initially, when I was coming home before I set up Beach Music, and when we're in those lull periods where there's nothing to do, one of the main things you do as a musician is you start teaching. So I went into initially college. I was teaching at a college. I got up to like head of music there, started teaching music business. And then I started doing lots of keynote speaks for different universities across the country and different events and stuff like that. So a real taste for like, I love teaching. I love trying to sort of impart a bit of knowledge, and it's more knowledge of like stuff that I've screwed up a bunch of times to try to you know what I mean, to just try and prevent people doing that. So when I stopped teaching as like an actual full-time job and I wanted to build a business because I want an exit and I want to get out of the rat race, I decided to sort of take that with me. Wrote a book that is sort of based on mental health and mindset and motivation, but it's kind of reads, there's no like guru to it, there's no like a holier than thou. It's very much like your mate down the pub giving you a little gas up, sort of helping you out. But yeah, we've done really well with that so far. But yeah, I feel like I'm waffling, mate. How are you?
You're doing amazing.
Tell me things. What's up with you, Ben?
So, where do we unpack this? Well, the first thing is for those listening, the books do shit, get shit done. I think it very much describes that of, moving things forward, really allowing you to, move out and step it up. Now, as a musician, you're a very creative entrepreneur, right? So you're managing creativity, you've got that freedom, and there's also, you need to be productive. And it's often a challenge for creative entrepreneurs to manage their business as well as their creativity in their sales. How did you manage that as you started to build this business up?
A really good question, actually. I like that. So, I mean, the thing is, one thing about me, I've always had this this real belief in that you can be pretty dumb, and as long as you put in consistent effort, it has to be consistent. It has to be daily, like a lifestyle choice, not a diet. You know, and
Yes.
as long as you do those little, I always sort of teach it like this: is that I always think it's like building a house. So you need step one, you have the foundation. The foundation's your self-improvement, your self-development, you know, reading, educating, looking after your body, looking after your mind. You need that strong foundation to start laying the bricks. A lot of people start laying the bricks without doing the foundation work, and then you know, you're not going to get too far. So then the idea is that for someone like me, that, you know, I really struggle when something's too big. Like, I love big goals, I'm all about that, but when something's like a massive project, I'd much rather put it into little manageable, super easily implementable steps. So you lay the brick, and the next day you lay the next brick, you know, and it doesn't look like anything, it's just a bunch of bricks. But fast forward a month, 2 months, 3 months, if you've done that every day, it's like, oh, this looks like a bit of a wall now, I can see this coming up. You stick the windows in. And then you get to point number 3, in my opinion, which is the execution, which is you put your roof on. So that's the payoff. That's the climb the top of the mountain. That's what the view's like, you know. So to answer your question, I like you mentioned initially, I was a drug addict for a while, which is bloody horrible. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. But one thing that sort of teaches you is how precious life is and how easy it is to just screw it up. So I started getting up early. I started going to bed early. I started looking after myself. You know, got a wife and a kid, and I wanted to make something where it's like, I really struggle then with that sort of, like, you know, the kind of rat race, go to school Monday to Friday, to then get a job Monday to Friday, to get that impending doom on a Sunday because you've got to go to the work that you hate the next day. It's not for me at all. So I think the thing is, it's having the purpose at the end of it. It's having that goal at the end of it that's more important to me than pressing snooze on my alarm. It's more important to me than, you know, fannying about or whatever. And don't get me wrong, I still have a bubble sometimes. I still like to hang out with people, but the kind of purpose of what I'm trying to do, the reason I want an exit plan, and I want to retire when I'm 40, and we're on the route for it, which is really good. But the reason that I want to do that has got nothing to do with it's the freedom that will bring me, and that means I can do my charity work. That means I can write more books, and it doesn't matter if I make any sales. It doesn't matter if it's my purpose. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. So for those listening, because you've obviously been on that journey of entrepreneurship where you've built businesses, you've lost businesses, you're starting new things. How is it that you maintain that momentum? Because I think a lot of times, you know, if we look at the challenging times that business owners have, it just knocks the wind out of them. Now, you've lost one business and you've now started a funding brokerages. You've still got your own brand focusing on mental health, and you help, you know, 18 to 35-year-olds worldwide who are interested in personal development. How do you manage to keep going even when you get knocked down? What is that belief in you? What is it about what you do that allows you to, you know, dive deep, keep going through those challenging times?
Super, you're really good at questions. I like you, Ben. Fair play. So there's two, I suppose, two bits here. One is a really, really great bit of advice I read in a book, and I can never remember who the book was by. So I read a lot. I read a couple of books a week. I listen to podcasts. I try and educate myself daily. But the bit of advice was some guy was talking. Some geezer was saying to some other geezer, like, he was like, "What's it like being a CEO of a company?" And he said, "It feels like you're working for the company and you're getting fired about 10 times a day." And I always took that with me, because it literally feels like you're constantly getting kicked. There's another, you know, something over here you've never thought about, and immediately it's there. Your bank account, you get debanked, or you get, like, whatever it is, or, you know, one of the employees is like, "Oh yeah, I'm just going to leave now," or, like, you know, whatever it is. There's always a kick. It might be something small, it might be something big. So with me, like, that's something that I think about quite a lot. However, I know what's at the other end of it. I've got friends that have exited. I've got friends that have, you know, done really well out of what they're doing and the build that they've made and been able to sell. And that brings me to purpose. And now I think there's a difference between passion and purpose. I was talking about this yesterday to someone, and so, right, the deal is that I think people follow their passion, and you get told that quite a lot. And it's like, follow your passion, you know, follow your dreams, do what you love. And I just think that's a load of crap. The reason being is because I've lived that the other side of it. I followed my dreams with my drumming. That is a passion of mine. Music's a passion of mine. I didn't check the market. I had no idea about that. I didn't know, you know, how to build that, how to scale that. I didn't understand what that was. And it's taken me a long time to realize that the person making money out of it, and money's not the main thing here, but the person making money out of, say, a music university Well, it's not the people coming out of the music university, it's the person running the music. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So that's passion to me, and the reason that I want to get to that end point is so that I can do my passions without having to worry about whether anyone else cares about them or not. It's what,
Yes.
but that's where the difference is for me. For what was the other word I was saying? I do this sometimes, I lose my brain.
Purpose and passion were the main
There
two.
you go. Mate, you are a legend. So purpose is the other thing. Purpose to me is the thing that you don't necessarily want to do, but you know it's right. So like I said, I do quite a bit of charity work, and I do a lot of mentorship and stuff like that. And sometimes it's hard, man. Like it's, I'd rather spend that time with my family. I'd rather spend that time drumming or playing basketball or surfing or whatever it is. But it's that thing in your gut or your heart or your soul or whatever you want to call it. It's that thing that just that's why you're on this earth. And I think for me, to answer your question extremely long-windedly, I think for me, it's the purpose at the end of it. It just, there's nothing that can trump that. There's, I know if I always think of it like a scale, and I know if I'm on the bad side of the scale, I've done too many bad things in a day. My options are go to bed like that, wake up feeling terrible the next day, or try and outweigh that scale with the good. And that's all I try and do, mate. I just try and be a little bit better each day, a little bit stronger, a little bit faster, a little bit wiser. Only a little bit, only tiny increments, but that's does that answer your question?
It does, yeah. Well, I think what's fascinating is the focus that you have on just being a little bit better. And I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs that get overwhelmed with these huge goals. They don't know where they're going. But as you mentioned previously, it's brick by brick. You stay consistent and you start to move things forward. And if you look at anyone successful, they've been consistent, right? It's that consistent action over time that really helps them move forward. So my next question is about giving, because you're clearly a giver and you're giving to charity. There's obviously the family, you have that overriding purpose. My question is, how do you think that impacts you when you're running your business? Because you mentioned how you were paying people out of your own pocket. You were doing that. And I know different business owners who have given so much that it often is detrimental on them. How do you manage that as a business owner, managing giving as well as kind of running your own stuff and looking after yourself at the same time? How do you manage that?
Another good question. I mean, so reciprocity, brother, like it's so overlooked. Like the problem is, like, I'm not chasing money. That's not what's important to me. It's absolutely important in the sense of it's a catalyst for the things I want to do, but at the same time, it's just that idea of being able to give something. You know this. Everyone knows this. When you do something nice for someone, whether they like it or not, they're like, okay, that guy's cool. I'm going to do something back. And so everything I've done over the last few years and all the guys that we work with, we've got this massive stint on reciprocity. It's the idea of just be good, just do good things. And the thing is, even if you're having a bad day, if you've done a bunch of cool stuff that's like made someone else's day better, well, I mean, you can't really have a bad day like that, So we basically, the way that we run the company is we keep getting told we're quite refreshing, which I really like. And I think because obviously we've set up this brokerage in finance, and to be honest, and I always say this out loud, whether we're at meetings, talking to lenders, talking to other partners, I mean, I have no financial background whatsoever. I just read a lot, and we've come into that by being. I think we've come at it from maybe a musician's point of view, or like something that's in a fairly stale industry, and a place where sort of people work their way up the ladder. And yeah, we've just tried to be super nice to everyone, like, and it seems to be working. And I think, like what you're doing, you're running an awesome podcast. You're taking your time out to do that. You're putting a lot of effort in. You've been extremely good back and forth with me with all the information you've sent, but that's noticeable. So then when I get off this call and I'm talking to a friend and he's like, oh, how was the podcast? I'm like, man, you should get in contact with this guy. You should check out this guy or whatever. You're putting yourself out there and you're putting in effort, and that's awesome. And I love that. And I think so many people are chasing something that they don't know, that they won't actually want when they get there, or they don't, it's what everybody else wants. It's not necessarily what they deep down want. It's that like look in the mirror kind of, do you know what I mean? Their purpose. And then I think a lot of other people sort of go down that route of like, it's just a bit greedy. And the problem with greed is it just never seems to work. It doesn't sort of do anything for anyone involved. So yeah, that's kind of my take on that, I think. What do you think?
That. Yeah, I definitely agree. And I love the take that you have on reciprocity there, on how important it is to really focus in on that, because there's so many people that are so money hungry, money focused, and what I find fascinating is I think a lot of people go through life where they want to achieve that so that they can do something different. It's like the when I have this, then I will addiction.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that one of the things that you've mentioned, very clearly is that you want to be able to do this as a catalyst, as an enabler, so that you can have the freedom to be able to pursue different passions and elements like that. And, I definitely think it's true, the difference between passion and purpose, right? Because, you can eat whatever you want, but you're not going to be thin. You know what I mean? Like you need to be able to focus on things that really help you long term. So let's chat a little bit about finances, because obviously you're doing the funding brokerage. You've got a plan to be, financially free at 40. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs miss this. So I'm curious for yourself, like, what is the overarching strategy in order for you to have that freedom, hopefully by the time that you're 40?
Cool. Yeah. So a couple of things here. So thing number one is I know lots of rich people, as in rich in money, who still owe 5 years on their car. They still owe 5 years. They don't own anything. And all they've done is they've got to the point where they're making bank, but then all of their expenses have gone up. Everything that they do has gone up, and they're just as poor as, everybody else. Yeah. It's just their stuff is nicer. Do you know what I mean? I don't want that. I don't want that at all. I want to buy my house. Here's cash. I'll buy the whole thing. That's the point I want to get to. So the actual strategy behind this is that we're building an exit plan over 5 years. We're sort of like 7 months into that. A lot of the stuff that I've been doing, and I think that is really important, that I think a lot of people get it really, really right, but a lot of people seem to miss the mark on this, is I try and make really good connections. So I have mentorship with a couple of people that have done exactly what I want to do. I put a lot of time into building those relationships and getting on their radar and stuff like that. I think something that's working really well is just holding our hands up. So it's quite funny. We'll be in like a board meeting or something like that, or a meeting with a bunch of lenders, and they'll pull out some jargon that we don't know. And instead of being like, yeah, man, yeah, okay. It's like, I don't know what you mean. And people just really love helping. So we're building out, the idea is, and this is the big plan, is that we'll be the kind of, compare the market comparison site, but for businesses. So initially, the offering that we've got is different types of business finance. So if businesses are looking for any type of funding, from could be builders and construction looking for development finance, right up to standard company that wants a term loan. Yes. But the idea is that we're going to roll out more products that we've just got on board, like a bunch of energy providers. So we're going to do business energy, then it'll be business insurance, business bank account, stuff like that. We've recently, I'm not going to say who it is because it's a big one that's going for at the moment. It's a big fish. Yeah, we just signed a contract with one of the largest comparison sites in the UK, for them to drop us leads, and that's like looking really, really sweet. So that's all the DD's done and everything like that, and we're just looking to, they're going to start driving traffic. And the thing is, like, honestly, we've got like a roadmap. We've pushed out a roadmap, pitch deck, the executive summary, all of those things. But honestly, I think the biggest part of the plan is just to stay as nimble as possible. I mean, look what's happened in the last year. It's, I know people that I've had this so many times before, where they're like, entrepreneurship, nah, man, I need the security. I mean, where's your security now? I know people that have been in the same job for years. They've worked their way up the ladder. They've just lost it because of COVID. I know companies that have been turning over millions and doing extremely well, just lost it because of COVID. So I think for me, it's that idea of like, we've got a plan in place. We've got things we're running towards. We've got specific goals we want to hit and specific targets. But I think it's that kind of constant recalibration and being like, right, okay, what does today look like? What does next week look like? Can we quickly turn if we need to? Can we increase different revenue streams so we're not just counting on one account or one type of product? So yeah, does that answer your question sort of?
Yeah, it does. And I think what's interesting is the way in which you articulate the different pivots that you're going to have throughout. And it's not just this overarching strategy. Like, there's going to be pivots. You realize that there's things that need to be changed. But I definitely think it is refreshing being able to put up your hands and say, I genuinely haven't got a clue what you're chatting about. I do think that's very important. And I think what's fantastic is the fact that you've built your network and you were really nurturing those connections. And I think that for a lot of people, they have so many connections, but not really any deep relationships. How do you actually manage those relationships in a way where you can nurture them? Because I think a lot of people struggle with that. Is there anything that you do consistently? How do you stay on top of those relationships so they don't fizzle out through time?
thing number one, if you can face to face, always face to face. If you can't pick up the phone, man, pick up the phone. So many people just won't make the call. They'll send the email and they'll think that they've made an action, and they're like, right, cool. I've spoke to so and so today, and it's like, make the call, talk to people. People are human. Everyone loves to talk about themselves. Everyone loves to get more information about the world around them. And if you can offer some kind of value, whatever it is, even if it's just having a lovely conversation like we're having, or whatever it is, there's some form of value there, hopefully, for someone. So I think the other thing as well, right? So I was getting not told off, but I was getting told by a few of my other business friends that run companies that we're doing it all wrong, because we'll say mate on the phone. So we'll have clients, this is true, we'll have clients phone up and we won't answer the phone like, "Yo, bravo, how you doing, mate? Yeah, sweet as." It won't be like that. But as soon as there's like a mini rapport, we'll start dropping buddy or mate, or you'll ask about the kids, we'll ask, and I think we've had so much feedback from clients where they're like, it feels like we're just talking to a friend down the pub, or it feels like people want to do business with people. And there's nothing wrong with a bit of automation. I don't think there's nothing wrong with scaling on automation, but that feeling when you phone up someone and you get "Are you looking for blah?" Say yes or no.
Yeah.
Oh my God, like, please, bro. Like, and it's like so refreshing when you get like one account manager that the name of, if they like football or basketball, if they're into cooking or ballet or whatever it is. So I think it's that kind of, it's just keeping it super personable and super like just human. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I definitely agree. And I think that it's that human element that I think so many people miss. And I think that that's incredibly refreshing in an industry that's obviously not really been doing that for quite a long time. To be able to have that, I think is amazing. So for our audience that are listening that would love to know a little bit more about what you do, both with Reform Financial, and then to figure out more about, the book, where would they go? How can they find out more info about you?
Yeah, no worries. So shameless plug for you, sir. If anyone wants a copy of the book, I always, on podcasts and stuff like that, I'll always give them out for free. You can grab it from Amazon. It's called Do Shit, Get Shit Done, and check out the reviews and everything like that. But if any of your listeners want a free digital copy, I can happily send that over. You can email me, lee@leebridges.co.uk. Yes, I am that douchebag that has his name twice in his own email ID. Sorry about that. But yeah, you can check me out on Instagram. My drum account is @drumhacker. My personal account is @leebridges. And then Reform Financial is reform-financial.co.uk. And check me out on LinkedIn if you want it. I'm kind of all over the shop with different stuff. I try and keep my fingers in different pies, if you know what I mean. Yes. But yeah, and then my personal website is leebridges.co.uk. Last thing, actually, if you don't mind the shameless plug, is I do a free newsletter. Super, thank you. I do a free newsletter that's a weekly newsletter that you can sign up to on my website. There's never any sale on it. It's literally just like, here's some life hacks, here's some motivation ideas, links, bits and pieces. And then the podcast is also under the same name, Do Shit, Get Shit Done.
Brilliant. That's amazing. And if there was one more thing that you wanted to leave the audience with today, what would be that last thing?
Good question. I think I can't coin this, because it was one of my friends that said this to me, and it always stuck with me. We used to do before COVID, we were running the charity group I do is called the 100 Club. So it's for young. Not all of them have got sort of mental health issues, but a lot of them have struggled at school or struggled at college and stuff like that. And yeah, we've got a real sort of push for them. We used to do. We will do them again, but when everything's sort of a bit more normalised. But we were doing like weekly meetups face to face. And I always got a guest to come in and speak. So it might be someone that knew loads about marketing, or someone that knew loads about entrepreneurship, or someone that knew loads about sport, or whatever, but just someone that was passionate about what they did and had a purpose. And one of my best friends, who I actually work with now, he's a part of the Reform team. He came in one day and he said something that's always stuck with me. And he said, always leave stuff better than you found it. And I love that. I love that sentiment. Something so small. It doesn't matter what it is. If you're washing the dishes, just do it well, do it the best you can. If you're tying your shoelaces, do it good. Do you know what I mean? If you're telling someone you love them, do it properly. And I love that. I love that little tiny sentiment of like, just make it a little bit better, mate. Make the world a little bit better, one step at a time. I love that.
Wow, brilliant. What a fantastic way to leave this episode. So for those joining, thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Lee, for coming on the show, and we will see you in the next one.
Bless you. Thank you so much for having me, Ben. You're an absolute legend.